Hey guys, Nightshade here, and right now for me it is 4 a.m. and I can't sleep. And as I probably made it pretty clear, when I can't sleep, my mind kind of just wanders, or I don't have any thoughts. But tonight my mind decided to wander, and I remembered this one video asking what's something you overheard that changed your feelings for a family member or a friend when you pretended to sleep. And I know there's always going to be someone inside the comments saying, well, you shouldn't have pretended to sleep. Yeah, maybe you should have some more fun. But what happened is that when I was 12, my mom needed a break from me personally because of some of my disabilities. She was a lot closer to my brother, who was very smart when it came to math, reading, things like that. And while I was more the mentally disabled daughter who had a lot more trouble. So sometimes she needed a break. So she would actually send me to live with my aunt and uncles for a few days or a week or two as a way to get that break. But one day we had gone up to visit me, her, and my brother. Out of the blue, they decided they were just going to leave me there for a week so she and my brother could go have some time alone and just bond over at an amusement park I did not feel like going. A lot of the family went. It wasn't just them. My uncle took most of the kids. It was mainly me, my aunt, and one of my older cousins were at the house. And everyone was just going for a day, so they weren't going to be gone long. My mom and my brother were going to be staying with my aunt and her ex-husband now they're ex-husbands, but at the time they were technically together, and one of my cousins inside a hotel room for the night before they come back because she's going to be tired driving. So I'm pretending to sleep there because it's about 6 a.m. The sun just got up. It just woke me up because I'm sleeping on a layback chair inside the living room. It's going to wake me up when someone comes in there. And I just did not feel like getting up. So something I did was I would just lay there with my eyes closed. Completely as if I don't hear anything. I'm passed out. But I'm not. So as I'm laying there, all of a sudden, my aunt's voice comes into my head. Saying, yeah, I love seeing them. I love seeing her family. They love seeing my mom. They love seeing my brother. They love seeing me. But they've all gotten so fat. Yeah, those were her exact words. Then later, and before this incident, I loved my family. I was perfectly fine with them. But after that, I realized how much they physically criticized me, my mom, and my brother for the way we lived our lives instead of being an actual family and loving us for who we are. And then my older cousin at the time said, yeah, and I'm sorry to say, but Junior is really annoying. All he talks about is the same things. I mean, like, she's not any better. And I mean, I'm sitting right there. I'm hearing all this as I'm pretending to sleep. And my cousin looks over, and I can't see, so I have no clue what they're doing with their movements. I'm just doing motions with my own hands. But he comes over, but he says, yeah, but mainly the fat's hitting her. Everyone else seems to be able to hold the weight at a good level. She's just going overweight at this point. Remember when she used to be so skinny, you could just break her she could eat anything and never gain weight? Now she's overweight. And I keep thinking about that, and I realize that happened when I was 10 years old. I started having body issues and problems with the way I looked when I turned 11. I never thought about it, but I realized overhearing that one conversation that took away my love for my mom's whole side of the family. Because they said a lot more, but that's the main stuff I think should matter. And I realized at 11, I let those simple words get so stuck in the back of my head, I couldn't get them out. To the point I hated myself. And by the time I turned 14, I was depressed and suicidal and going to therapy and on multiple pills to try to fix it. And I never thought about that. But I was fine up until that day I overheard it. Because I never told my mom what I heard. I had tried before. And my mom, with her brother, his wife, her sister, and her husband, kids don't tell the truth. They physically have accused me and my brother multiple times of lying. Or they would physically say things. Like, another story I can think of is my aunt and uncle lived in Georgia at the time, and they lived inside a cabin in the middle of nowhere. Now, this was when I was in Indiana, and I was entering my senior year, so I was 17. And at the time, I was doing swim practice, and I was doing swim and dive competitions because I was a really good diver. I could do 18 different dives, inverted dives, backflip, front flips. I just love diving. I always have. I've loved swimming. And it's something I've loved my whole life. I love just swimming, diving, having fun, relaxing. And so what happened is that during that day, during the whole entire week, they were perfectly fine. They paid for my airplane ticket. They picked me up from the airport. And at the time, it was about 4 months and about 2 years before then. It could have been longer because I think she was about 3, but they adopted a cousin. And at the time, she was a newborn whose mother was high on heroin, and so they adopted her. I don't know anything else, and I refuse to say anything else because that's her story. She should have every right to say her parents' story. But what it is that after they had adopted her, she was about 3 years old, and they had asked my mom, and they didn't tell me any of this. I found out about it later when my mom went off on me because of their lies. Which also, this is kind of why I don't like any of my family. It's nothing that's bad. It's physically because they have lied, and I constantly had to be the one shouted at and made to feel like crap because my family would lie, even though that's not even close to what happened. But because I was a kid, pretty much everyone said, oh, you can't believe her. She's obviously going to lie to make herself better. And it's like, I had no reason to lie. I had no reason. Why do you have a reason to lie about a little kid? Sounds more like you're in competition with me than the other way around, sweetheart. But, so, I really don't get along with a lot of my family. My dad's side, especially, they want me dead. I don't get along with them. My mom's side, I try, but that's mainly for her sake because she loves her family, and I want to be supportive for that. But I don't honestly want to be around them. I don't like any of my family, and I never have. They are bullies. They bully, harass, and make people feel like shit, and they may never see it, but growing up with them, trust me, they're not good. And I'm happy I'm away from them and inside my own little world, but I don't have to worry about being bullied or dealing with that, because I physically couldn't. They may have matured after all this time, and there's someone who's going to say that. But me personally, I did not see that maturity. I have not seen it. I have not once seen them apologize for the way they treated me when I was younger. Like how when my family, like everything. So I can't say that. But I had gone to go visit them, and my little cousin's only about 3 at the time. And at the time, during the summer, I was babysitting my god sister. My mom's best friend had a daughter who was born inside September like me, and so I was babysitting her, so I didn't mind babysitting. The fact that during this, I'd actually gotten a message from my coach I got a text message, and she had said, hey, we're starting swim practice early, which originally swim practice there was not supposed to start till September, and I took this trip in August, because we thought we'd have plenty of time for me to watch them, so they could have some time away from a 3-year-old and go have an actual date night. It did not turn out that way. So when I got told that, I called my mom and I said, hey, do you think you could find a way to make plans to come pick me up? I really want to go to swim. I ended up not doing it because of this incident, which really heartbreaks me that my family physically made me hate the idea of going to swim at that point so much because they had to do this. But as I was busy doing that, as soon as I stopped talking to my mom, I went downstairs and I said, hey, Aunt, aunt and uncle, I need to, if it's okay, I need your help to get to the airport. I've got to go home in 2 days. Now, their trip date was planned out for 4 days. So that means I was leaving 2 days early. Because they were planning their trip date on Sunday and I was supposed to go back Monday. And I got there on Monday. So it was supposed to only be a week. So they were upset and they said, we can look into it. And I said, okay. They ended up finding me a ticket and I got home. But when my mom picked me up, that's when the drama started. As soon as she picked me up, she was pissed. And you know, whenever you get into a call with a parent and they're so mad, you can just feel the anger radiate off them. And you don't know what you did, or you don't know if you should say anything. So I chose to say, hey Mom, what's up? How are you? Like I normally would. She turns and she goes, how dare you treat your aunt and uncle like that? They were so nice to you. And I said, what? I didn't treat them bad. I didn't think so. Can you tell me? And she said, well, they said you forced them to call and get the airport and send you home so they couldn't have this stupid date because you were mad at them. I physically called her and showed her the text saying that swim practice was starting early. And she didn't want to take it. She just physically said, no, I believe them. They obviously are telling the truth. And as I said, this incident actually just made me not want to be part of that family ever again. For the simple fact that I had enjoyed something I loved, which was swimming and diving. I now had this permanent memory of my family members lying and making me feel so bad that the next morning when I was supposed to go to swim, I just couldn't. I ended up texting the coach and saying, I can't join the team this year. And I left. I did not contact anyone, didn't talk to anyone. And I became a loner. And it just breaks my heart nowadays to think about that. Like, I could have had a career. I could have looked at swimming camps. I could have actually followed something. But because you didn't like the fact that I chose to go home 2 days early because I wanted to do something I love at 17, you have to lie and destroy the memory. And I keep thinking about that, thinking that I didn't overhear this. I was told it. But it's always from the same family. It's like nothing I could say or do would change how they would treat me. Even when, like, during one time with this family, with this particular one, my mom has a sister and a brother. This is specifically the brother side. The sister side I don't like for other reasons, but those would bring up too much personal stuff, and I don't want that spread online. There's some things I do believe should not be ever said online, and there's some things I think could be said. But this just, sometimes you just need to know when to not open your mouth. But one time, when unfortunately my mom and dad were going through a very bad part of their divorce, and they started hitting and threatening, and my mom almost crashed the car with me and my brother in it because my dad was being an idiot with a gun, and she had to swerve out of the way of bullets. We ended up with a situation where we actually were pulled from my mom and dad and put into care of my aunt and uncle. And the room I lived in, which I still don't understand how they thought this was appropriate, is they gave my brother the room downstairs. So he was fine downstairs. He had the whole basement. He shared it with 3 of my male cousins. They just had a ball. But me, they decided to put me upstairs inside this little tiny alcove in their room. And I'm not joking. They had the whole entire upstairs as a master bedroom, but they had a little tiny alcove right over here. If you come straight up the stairs, and then you'll see the whole room, their bed's over here by the wall. Now the alcove, if you follow straight, is this little tiny area about, I'm going to say about 10 inches in, and it was mainly just for storage. But that's where they decided I would sleep. And for some reason, I've never understood this. My uncle had special rules when it came to me specifically. Here's one of the rules I never understood. Is while I was living there, I constantly heard everyone call my uncle by his name, which his name is Mike. So I would hear my brother say, "Good night, Mike." I'd hear my cousin say, "Goodnight, Mike." I mean, that was her stepdad, so it did make sense. I would hear his own kids say, "Goodnight, Mike." But I never understood why me and one other cousin were forbidden from calling him Mike, even though that was his name. And it was later explained to me by one of his kids that he believed that the two youngest female cousins should never call an aunt and uncle by anything other than aunt or uncle. And I've never understood that, to be honest, because I never actually got around to ask him. Unfortunately, he is not here anymore, so I can't say anything. I don't have the ability to ask him nowadays, but I never did understand that. So one night, I decided, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I called him Mike when I was walking upstairs. I said, "Goodnight, Mike," and I went upstairs. The next morning, he went off. I ended up just standing up, grabbing my stuff, and walking out. And I'm not joking. My aunt tried to stop me, and I told her, "Move. Right now, I'm not inside a good place. Please leave me alone." And I just gently moved to her side, and I walked out the door, because I was not dealing with that. Because my aunt and uncle are good people sometimes, but they also have their bad sides. And one of those bad sides is, like, I'm a super picky eater, and that's because of my autism. I have certain food sensitivities I just can't handle. And something my ex used to say is, "Oh, you should just go to a food therapist to fix that." And I'm like, that's not how it works, dude. But he was a narcissist who thought that his ADHD and his disability should always take preference. So what happened is that one of the things I don't like is salad. Something about it, the texture or something, it just always sets me off and makes me throw up. And as I've shown before, I can throw up very easily even thinking about foods I don't like. Right now, I feel like gagging. And that's just something I do. So my uncle had this one rule. My aunt and uncle, they tried to force it on me one time. When they saw I was willing to sit at that table all night, their rule was this: either you have to eat everything put in front of you, or else you can't leave the table. I am not joking. Dinner started at 6. 12 hours. I sat at that table and refused to touch the small amount of salad in front of me. And when my mom came, she asked, "Why is she still sitting there?" And they said, "Why?" And she physically told me, just go upstairs, go to bed. And then she explained to them exactly what it is. And they got all mad saying, "No, she's just a picky eater." And it's like, no, that's not actually true. It's something that physically affects me. And instead of realizing that, you're being disrespectful and pretty much harsh and bullying me into doing something I'm not okay with. But see, that's kind of the thing about family, is they all act weird. Because while my aunt and uncle didn't care, I have 3 boy cousins who are overprotective as hell of me and a few of the younger cousins. And I think that's because they were the youngest at one point, so they are overprotective. But they're all 3 triplets, all 3 brothers. And one time I went over to go see my aunt and uncle when I lived in Indiana, and they were actually just a little bit of ways. They were actually just one town up, so we went to go see them pretty often, which I personally didn't like. My mom was happy, but not me. So what happened is that one day we went up there, and I was 16, because it was just right after we moved here, moved to Indiana, and we just went to go visit. They happened to be visiting, so we all went to a park. I got so bored. And I'm the type of person where if I get bored, I just kind of wander. I don't really look for anything. I just go wandering. But I'm 16. 20 minutes after I just walk off the park to go wander, 7 different cars are driving around. And all I'm hearing is my name shouted. I realized that all 3 of my male cousins had thought I got kidnapped and were driving around looking for me with their friends, just so they can. And the whole reason why they did this is the funniest part, is they were trying to hit on these 3 triplet sisters, and they thought I was so cute and so cool, and it was so funny because they wanted to hang out with me. They did not care about the boys. But the minute I walked off, all 3 sisters noticed I left and started freaking out. And the boys tried to write it off, which these girls told me about. They did try to ignore it, and then they made a big deal. And I just kind of laughed and said, oh, they were hitting on you. I completely threw my cousins underneath the bus, and I don't think they've ever forgiven me for that one, honestly. But they did kind of embarrass me, so I think it's a fair. But I just can't sleep, so I wanted to talk a little bit. Thanks for listening, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.